The events that I've been talking about took place over 20 years ago. And as much as I'd like to think that I have a really good memory, the truth is that there are details, there are things that you forget. So what I'm getting at is that I actually went back to my parents' house just to get my diary. Yes, it was a diary. Now I have journals, but from this time in my life. And I actually sat down and did the timeline. And there's a couple things that before we go any further in the series, I just want to make very clear. One thing that wasn't immediately apparent was that I attended 3 different schools in this time period. So something that was going on in the background was that in the 3rd grade, I was at West Portal Elementary. The 4th grade, I was at Christian Life Academy. And then the 5th grade, I was at Alma Heights Christian Academy. I will not go into any of that. I do really want to keep this to tiny, and then you'll see what else we go over in the series. But I did a whole series about how private school just came so close to ruining my life. So that's not something that I really want to talk about in this video because I've already covered that. I really want to talk about what was going on the other side. And that's that Tiny was my constant throughout all of this, through changing schools, which again, in a nutshell, the change from public to private school was very, very unsettling for me, to put it in the least. I was always teased a lot. I was always picked on. I was always really sensitive. I have these memories from the 3rd grade of going and crying behind the dumpster, behind the classroom. The kids would pick on me and I'd go and cry. And earlier that year, I'll never forget, earlier at the beginning of my 3rd grade year, 9/11 happened. And I remember, not only was it my brother's birthday, number one, so I remember it that way, but I was a really sensitive kid. I'll never forget that woman jumping with the yellow shirt. I broke down in class. I'll never forget that. I broke down and my teacher came. I guess I'm still a little sensitive, but what I'm getting at is I would come home and I would tell Tiny my problems. Tiny listened to everything. He did not judge me, and he was my world. He inspired me. He loved the water, unlike most cats. So because he was an indoor-outdoor cat, again, spare me. I don't need any of it. When it would rain and then it was sometimes things would happen, my dad would be gone, so we wouldn't be able to get into the we wouldn't be able to get into the garage, or Tiny would leave, and we wouldn't be able to get him into the garage. But when he decided it was time, when he wanted to, he would climb to the top of the porch and then just sit at the top in front of the door and just meow and scream, but just sit there getting all wet, but it was on his terms. I remember that. It was, yeah. Another really fun memory that I have was that for Thanksgiving, I gave him a turkey leg. My dad allowed me to give Tiny a turkey leg, and Tiny was so happy. I have never seen a cat get drunk. He was so happy. He picked, and mind you, Tiny was a little cat. He picked up the whole turkey leg in his mouth because he didn't, I don't know, thought I was gonna take it from him. And he danced in a circle. It was the cutest thing ever. He danced in a circle 3 times. He was so excited. That's such a fun memory that I have of, he made me so happy. Having this cat, being the oldest, not knowing that I was gay yet, being picked on at school. My siblings are a lot closer in age, and actually that's not true. Me and my brother are 16 months apart, but Tiny was my best friend in the world, and I really felt like he was brought to me, he was given to me. And yeah, anyway. The last thing I want to end before we get to the next part is I want to talk about one memory because perhaps two of the biggest things that Tiny inspired in me was a determination to really do well in school, because I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian. I knew I wouldn't get into vet school if I didn't have good grades and if I didn't work hard at school. So even though nobody in my family's been to college before, I'm the first one to graduate, I really owe that to Tiny. And becoming a vegetarian. So I'm gonna end with this story. I remember my dad bought us deli sandwiches and we were remodeling the house. So that was something that we kind of did more often that we didn't normally do. Wasn't normal to do as kids because my parents weren't super wealthy. But when we were remodeling the house and the kitchen was like needing to be fixed, we would like eat out a little. We would eat out more. I remember that. We had these deli sandwiches, and I remember thinking, having just decided that I was going to be a vegetarian, which, by the way, that's something I've done for over 20 years at this point. And I just remember picking out all the ham, all the turkey, all the whatever it was, and putting it on the side of my plate. And my dad said, "You're not going to leave the plate. You're not going to leave the table until you finish all that on your plate." I said, "I promise you I won't. I will not." And I remember that our neighbor was helping us, and he said something like, "Oh, that's not even meat anyway. I forget what he called it." But I was adamant. My dad could see that I was adamant. He knew that I was serious, and I don't remember how that situation fixed itself. But what I do remember is that my dad started to do a bunch of research. Apparently, I dropped a bunch of weight and got really skinny, and he got really worried about me. Would you believe me if I told you that my dad became a whole ass vegan? He became a vegan. I was a vegetarian, he became a vegan, and from there on, again, there were only 5 of us, my mom, my dad, me and my 2 brothers at this point. We ate mostly a plant-based diet because of the decision that I made and then my father ended up making. So when I say that this cat changed my life, that is probably the biggest understatement that I'm making in this entire series.